welcome to Find Out Nation. I'm one of your hosts, Jaime.
And I'm one of your hosts, Nicole.
And we are here today to talk about what happens when a nation fucks around and finds out. Nicole, how far are we into our torture?
91 days. Yesterday was 90 days.
Okay, we hit 90 days. I will say, like, I really kind of expected today to be a shitstorm of, look, my eye's still
Your
purple.
black eye is still a little black.
I still have my black eye. Anyway, I kind of expected today to be hearing about some of the doom and gloom predictions that we had been hearing. We haven't heard any of those yet, and we have not devolved into martial law. We are not like out on the streets. It hasn't happened. So
not yet.
That's good news, but I am waiting for to hear what some of the members of Trump's cabinet we're going to fondly rebrand the regime and join our journalistic brothers and sisters in calling Trump and his cabinet the regime. But I will be interested to see what the regime comes back on the south of the border crisis and whether or not it constitutes an emergency in this country and allows Trump to basically just go nuts for donuts. With that said, that was the bright news. I was glad that my 420 was not ruined. I was very glad for that. Okay. How long do we have until our next election?
560.
Okay, we're getting closer.
At least we're at a nice round, like even number. I don't know.
Yes. So midterm election, 560 days.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm feeling a little bit better. When we really get into it's like when I'm losing weight, you know, if I see a certain number, I feel better.
Yeah, you start feeling good about it.
Even if it only means like 2 pounds have been lost since the last time I got on scale. But with that said, 560 feels better to me than last week when it was like 566 or whatever it was. So, okay, that's good. We have a lot to talk about this week. And funny enough, the content that we have this week is just wild in my mind. Like we heard from RFK Jr. I mean, his speech was a goddamn nightmare. My husband keeps saying that JD Vance killed the Pope, which was really, I know.
People are trolling him on social media and I'm living for it. They're like, the Pope yeeted himself right out of the universe as soon as he met JD Vance.
So we'll talk about that. Pete Hegseth did it again. So we have that to talk about. And I want to talk about James Carville and his comments that he's been making.
Which I have not heard. So I'm nervous about this.
Indeed. Okay. So the big one that I want to start with is let's talk about Pete Hegseth.
No.
He's already gotten in trouble for having signal chats where he's divulging important information, national security plans, in signal chats, which, yes, signal chats are encrypted, but that does not mean that they are 100% immune from hackers or the ability for people to get into those and find them, read them, that sort of thing. He includes this. So originally, as you guys remember, we reported out that, of course, he had brought in the editor of The Atlantic. Right? It was The Atlantic.
Yeah, The Atlantic.
The original. Yep. This latest one is he now has this signal chat that has like 20 people on it, including his wife. Is that what I heard?
His wife, his brother, his personal attorney. I mean, probably his housekeeper at this point. Who the fuck knows? Like his girlfriend is probably on it, you know.
Yes.
A couple of his drinking buddies. Like
Indeed. I really do think that like of all the people that could have been brought in as like, hey, the Secretary of Defense, like you are literally only supposed to be like defending this country. And like the one thing that you need to do, and not to mention the fact that he came from, it's not like he never heard of Hillary Clinton and the emails. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, yeah, because I'm sure that he was on Fox News talking about how she needed to be sent to the gulag for it. You know what I mean?
Exactly correct. So of all the things, and from what I'm hearing, like, of course, the leaked information that has gone out could have endangered U.S. pilots. Tammy Duckworth has called for his resignation at this point. A lot of people are speculating. It was even on NPR was reporting out a few hours ago that they were actively considering replacing him in the White House. The White House has come back and said, absolutely not, whatever, but
Pete's our man.
See what happens. Do you think he'll get replaced?
So no. So I have a couple things about this. And I mean, first and foremost, right? Like, this is what happens when you put highly incompetent people in very important positions. Yes. But last Friday, he fired 3 senior officials for allegedly leaking information about what was going on inside the Pentagon, and he was pissed about it. And they came out on X and were like, he's smearing our reputations, he's, they're baseless attacks, blah, blah, blah. Well, and so then all of this shit comes out yesterday. So what I think is interesting is that Rep. Don Bacon, who is a Republican, chairs the House Armed Services Committee's Cyber Committee, was the first Republican in Congress to publicly say he should step down. So this quote kills me. Bacon said, "I'm not going to tell the White House how to manage this, but I find it unacceptable, and I wouldn't tolerate it if I was in charge." He added that the Pentagon appears to be in disarray and pointed out that this turmoil is one reason many Republicans on the Hill were uneasy about Hegseth's nomination. Now, I want to remind everybody, we don't have to travel that far back because it hadn't been 90 days since this motherfucker was nominated. I want to remind everyone that J.D. Vance had to break a tie because only 3 Republicans voted against his nomination, one of which was not Don Bacon.
Right.
It was McConnell, Murkowski, and Collins. So I don't want to hear a damn word out of any Republican's mouth about this is why we were uneasy.
This is why we were uneasy.
Go fuck yourself.
Were you? Because you didn't say it at the time.
Yeah, no, you were more at the time to bend the fucking knee and do what Trump told you to fucking do.
That's
I don't want to hear it.
Yep. And all 3 of the men escorted out of the Pentagon that were accused of leaking information to the press have said on X that their dismissal was unconscionable. And
unconscionable.
Unconscionable. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I had such a hard time saying that. I have been having, by the way, the Mondayest of Mondays today.
Oh, God, that's the worst.
Likely I could say some words wrong today. We'll find out.
It's fine.
And they said that they have not even been told what they have been accused of leaking. They just were escorted out.
Why do they need to leak anything? He's fucking doing it for himself.
That's exactly right. Like, obviously he's putting out all the information in Signal. So what do they need to leak at the end of the day?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's no surprise that our national security systems are in disarray based on like just people resigning and people leaving the organizations, people coming out publicly against him. It's not like they're leaking that, oh my God, people like are unhappy inside the Pentagon. That nobody has to leak that. We all know that. We all know that. Like,
and this is why I don't think he'll resign, first of all, and why I don't think Trump will force him to resign, is because who on this group chat's going to send out screenshots? Fucking nobody. Nobody on this one. And he was already this morning blaming the liberal media that it's all a hoax. It's all this bullshit. It's these 3 guys. Like, none of it's true. It's all, he is raging out inside the Pentagon. Just insane. You know what I mean? And so I don't think, because Trump's going to dig his heels in. Because Hegseth is going to do anything Trump wants him to do. So
I think so too, unless he starts getting the people with all the money pressuring him. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
good
I
point.
think that if
I hadn't thought about that.
And like whatever, if they start coming at him and saying, listen, you're insanity. This is insanity. You're insane. Then he might make and what he'll do is publicly claim total and complete
faith in him.
Yes, faith in him, and I stand by him, blah, blah, blah. But he's made the decision that he's just too much of a target from the liberal media. And so in order to protect him and his family, I've decided to let him step down. Like, that's where I could see it happening.
That's a good point.
And that's where it'll be like, Trump won't have to look like I fired his ass or I was wrong. Yeah. And he gets to get off scot-free. That's what I could see happening.
Yeah, because the only other way that's going to go down is if his new best friend Bukele calls him and says, you know what I'd do? Yeah. Because I'd take him out back and fucking shoot him. That's what I'd do. Like, you know what I mean? Otherwise, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. That is probably how it's going to play out.
So we'll see what happens. I, for one, just am delighted that this guy keeps doing this. To your point, it just shows the total and complete incompetence of putting a goddamn network broadcaster in place of the
alcoholic.
Alcoholic, yeah, exactly.
He's a fucking clown. Right. I just...
Yes, 100% a clown, and he deserves all the wrath that he's getting and more, since, to your point, I am positive he was probably one of the loudest. That's Hillary should be locked up kind of.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. So we got the very terrible news of the Pope passing.
Yes.
So we heard today that it was due to a stroke and heart failure. Mm-hmm. It's sad because this Pope was fairly progressive. There were some things that I didn't agree with the Pope on, but for the most part, this has been the most progressive Pope that we've had in ever.
Ever, yeah.
J.D. Vance went and visited him yesterday.
And now he's coming out and he's like, I could tell he didn't feel well. Could ya?
Could ya?
Because you, oh my God, somebody posted a picture on social media today of the back of J.D. Vance's haircut. And they said, the Pope took one look at this and said, nope, I got to get out of here. Because his hair is cut so like, it's like sticking up in the back. Like it's just, the trolling of him on social media all the time. Like, I love it. I love it.
I know. Yeah. I feel bad. Like I don't want to joke about the Pope's death.
Oh yeah, no. But I love that like the trolling of JD Vance is happening. Like,
you could not call for better trolling fodder than this.
Yes. Like, I feel bad for our Catholic friends. You know,
so, right? And there's part of me that's like, you know how. So I think you and I talked about this early on, that we needed to come up with like a new conspiracy theories. Yes. Like 1 a week. We had Trump was a KGB spy for a while. Yes. That one was exciting. I feel like this could be the next one.
Yeah.
JD Vance killed the Pope. Like,
and like what happens if this is not the only one?
Yeah.
Oh my God. If somebody else drops dead after they see him.
Yeah. Yeah. What if JD Vance is an assassin being like this, and that's his cover, that he's like super dumb and got like a big old kitty moon face. And he has that because he's actually a super trained spy.
Yeah, maybe assassin.
I mean, let's be honest. The progressive views of the Pope are exactly the thing that Trump and his cronies hate, right? Well, let's take from the rich, give to the poor, accept everybody. Let's like support the LGBTQ communities, blah, blah, blah. Like all of that is shit that Trump hated and probably JD Vance hated too. So in all fairness, of all the people, of all the world leaders they would target, Pope would be the first one.
And why? I don't understand why he was there. Why was he visiting?
That's the other thing.
Vatican City on Easter. Like, I don't understand what he's doing.
There was no like, hey,
he's JD not Vance
Catholic. Like how often did we hear about JD Vance going to fucking Greenland? Like we've heard for that for weeks before.
And then none of us had any idea he was traveling.
None of us had any idea that JD Vance was going to talk to the Pope. Like it feels super last minute.
It does feel.
I'm just saying.
Super last minute. Well, and it's weird because like
if I had bought a plane ticket as quickly as JD Vance had bought his plane ticket to Italy,
you'd have been flagged.
I would have gotten a full cavity search.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, for sure. And it is interesting too because they were showing on the news like he came to the U.S. at one point on Easter because he was at the White House with the Obamas for the Easter egg roll.
I know.
So then I'm like, but why were we like, I don't understand why Vance was there.
I don't know.
And to your point, like it was not being talked about in the news that, you know, JD Vance was being sent to Vatican City to, you know, give good wishes to the Pope or whatever the hell he was doing. I mean, I don't know. It's bizarre. I don't know why he was there.
Yeah. So did you see that the Pope did actually the Pope has issued multiple messages about the Trump administration.
Oh.
And it says that there's a People article that said Vance was initially brushed off by His Holiness on Saturday and instead met with the senior Vatican leaders who were sent in the Pope's place. But then I guess they
managed to work it out on Sunday.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Vance traveled to the Vatican City over the weekend. This is in People magazine, by the way. Though he was initially rebuffed by the Catholic leader, meeting instead with the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, and some other people. The office of the vice president, who converted to Catholicism in 2019, said he and Parolin discussed their shared religious faith, Catholicism in the United States, the plight of persecuted Christian communities around the world, and President Trump's commitment to restoring world peace. The Vatican release, however, said the pair had an exchange of opinions on the international situation, especially regarding countries affected by war, political tension, and difficult humanitarian situations, with particular attention to migrants, refugees, and prisoners. You know what he said. You know he was like, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So, real.
I didn't realize that Vance is a Catholic. He converted to Catholicism. I wonder if Usha is a Catholic, and that's why he converted.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I will say that like in Pope Francis's official Easter address, he doubled down on the importance of compassion for society's discounted members. In the address, which was delivered shortly after Vance left the Vatican, the Pope wrote how much contempt is stirred up at times towards the vulnerable, the marginalized, and the migrants. So there's no doubt.
Yeah. Well, and he is the antithesis of what the Trump regime is. I mean, he refused 100%. To live in the opulent, you know, papal, what do they call it? Like apartments or whatever. He just had like a normal 2-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
He was still very much the Jesuit priest he had always been. He would go out and he would wash people's feet and he would do all the things. You know what I mean?
Yes. He oftentimes would advocate for, to your point, like taking care of people, donating to people, not living opulent lifestyles. Like he very much lived and breathed that as his belief. I mean, we've said it for years. If Jesus Christ came back today, the right would persecute and kill him so quickly. Yeah. Well, first they would throw him into an ICE prison camp because where the fuck was he from originally? Exactly. And then they would absolutely persecute him and probably send him to El Salvador at this point. Like if you were to ask, they probably wouldn't kill him, but they would probably send him to El Salvador just as quick as they possibly could. Right.
For sure. Yeah.
Like it's very clear to me that JD Vance and the Pope, while they might have had a fine exchange, according to JD Vance, I assume he's not just so stupid he didn't recognize the fact that the Pope was calling them like terrible people.
And it's great that now he can say that because the Trump can't refute him, right? Or the Pope can't refute him, right?
Refute him. That's exactly right. But I think it's pretty clear, that his Easter condemnation of being mean to migrants is 100% directed towards Trump and what he's doing. So I kind of love this, but I do think that we should perpetuate this JD Vance killed the Pope narrative. As our next big 100%. Conspiracy theory, because we got to get the crazies somehow, and I feel like this is the way to do it.
This is the only way to do it.
That's right.
Come up with some batshit conspiracy
theory. We're
theory.
going to follow in the footsteps of creating the Tea Party movement, but on the left,
true.
We have to have our share of. Hillary ran a pizza place that was trafficking children. Yes. And it's like JD Vance is the world's worst or best assassin. Like this is going to be it.
Accidental assassin.
That's exactly right. Speaking of the Easter, the Easter egg celebration.
Yeah.
I know that you had a comment, and we don't have to talk much about this, but I read it as well, that the Easter egg roll was basically sponsored by big tech?
Funded by big tech for the first time the event had corporate sponsors. For the first time ever, it had corporate sponsors.
I want to see like the Easter Bunny in an outfit that's like has an Amazon ad and it right like this
like
is
the YouTube symbol and like
right.
Meta
or
symbol.
All the Easter eggs had different branding on them,
Hashtags on them.
Right. I really
QR
think,
codes.
Right. The White House has to make money somehow. They're, of course, touting how great the tariffs are doing, but we've seen no actual evidence of that. So love this journey for us.
I realize that I roll my eyes a lot when we're podcasting.
Yeah.
And I just felt myself do it again. But like this shit is so fucking ridiculous.
I know.
That I can't even keep myself from doing it. Like, yeah. And it was interesting to me that Amazon, Google, and Meta were all big corporate sponsors who are all being sued by the federal government right now for antitrust violations. Like, that's convenient.
Yeah.
That's convenient.
Well, we all know that it's not convenient. It's very much was orchestrated that way. It was very much orchestrated that way.
Yeah.
Okay. The next topic that I want to discuss.
Yeah.
Is RFK Jr. and his recent speech on vaccines and autism.
Yes. I'm going to try not to roll my eyes. I'm going to close my eyes and roll them internally and then just open my eyes.
I don't know. Like, I don't know that I have ever read or heard or listened to a speech that was absolutely as condescending, rude, and misinformed as it possibly. Well, there you go. You just rolled your eyes. Sorry. As it possibly could be.
It's like a tick.
It really is. But when you talk about these things, there's no way not to.
Like, oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
So he basically came on and said that the rates of diagnosis were like skyrocketing. The numbers that I heard are that we are now diagnosing 36 in every 1,000 adults, whereas in 2020 we were diagnosing 31 in every 1,000 adults. But the National Institute on Autism, whatever, I can't remember what it's called, but they basically said that this can directly be correlated to better testing procedures and methods and methodology than on any increased rise and especially because like, I don't know about you, but I'm hearing about vaccination rates going down. Like people aren't getting vaccinated anymore. So like, I didn't understand that. But then to get up and basically say that autistic people will never be a part of the world we live in. They'll never have jobs. They'll never pay taxes. They'll never be in relationships. Like, Jon Stewart and his team could not wait to be like, has this motherfucker never seen Love on the Spectrum? Like, what the fuck?
Right.
There's a whole goddamn fucking TV show about it. Are you fucking kidding
me?
Like, and to literally say, and did you know that it's Autism Awareness Month?
Oh, I did not know that.
April. So we have a friend who has a son who's autistic, and she posted yesterday, Happy April Autism Awareness Month. And I was like,
oh my God.
Are you serious?
You couldn't be more tone deaf.
In all fairness, he is making us so aware of autism and what it really means. Like it's shocking what he's doing for the autistic community. But the autism community is so angry, and they have every
and rightfully so
right to be.
Yeah.
Yes. Like most of us know and care about somebody, right, that has autism.
Yes.
Or at least we know somebody who knows somebody and cares about somebody that is autistic. And the fact that like we are standing up as the goddamn Health and Human Services Secretary and saying this misinformation about people who are autistic, and the fact, I'm so sorry, but the fact that he's like, autism destroys families.
It's an epidemic.
It destroys our greatest resource, which is our children. Are you kidding me?
Oh God, I don't want to cut you off. I'm so sorry. Keep going.
No, he literally said, they'll never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted.
Not everyone who is autistic is nonverbal and requiring round-the-clock care. That's why it's a spectrum.
That's right.
And I hate to break it to him because I know, again, this is just like Hegseth. This is why you don't put someone who is anti-science, who is anti-vaccine, who is anti-common fucking sense.
Yep.
In charge of something as vitally important as our health. And
that's right.
I don't, like, we were discussing this in my house over the weekend, and you know, my daughter had said, because of the stuff she has learned in her college classes, she's like, autism is just like ADHD. Yep. There is a component of genetics in every autism case. So him saying, I'm going to come up with the solution by September of what environmental factors are causing all these skyrocketing rates of autism. She's like, it's not environmental. Like, it's genetics, and it's better testing and it's better knowledge and all those things that's allowing us to be able to diagnose people earlier in their lives so they can get the help they need, so that they can be as high functioning as they possibly can be within the spectrum that they're on with it, you know? Yes. And so and as someone who came from a family whose wackadoo grandfather took his aunt and had her lobotomized, and then she had to be permanently put into a home after that. You know what I mean? Like, there's just his cousin, Jack, is trolling him on social media like nobody's business. After he came out and said he'd have an answer by September, Jack's like, take the summer off. We don't want you to get too stressed out by doing too much all at once. You go ahead and take the summer off.
Well, that was the other crazy thing that he said. And in all fairness, if the HHS is going to put a bunch of money towards autism research, great, do
more
it.
Power,
I love it.
Yes,
more power to you.
Yes,
but he says that they're going to launch this massive testing and research initiative, and that they expect to know the cause of autism by this fall. So it is April. They are expecting by this fall that they are going to know the cause of autism. I am shocked to hear him say that. Now, if they want to, again, put their money towards autism research, I love it. I love that. And again, we are definitely getting a lot of autism knowledge because, you're hearing RFK say what he says, and then all these people responding to what he's saying. So in that way, like, good job. I guess you kind of are getting autism awareness, but at the end of the day, are you fucking serious? Well, like, to your point, AJ has dyslexia, and dyslexia can have all sorts of impacts, but do we have people who are like wildly successful with dyslexia?
Yes.
Dyslexia? And, so if someone got up there and were like, every dyslexic is incompetent and
has to wear a diaper
to school. Yeah. I cannot tell you how goddamn incensed I would be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and if the answer come the fall is it's all vaccines and here's this bunk science that proves it, and so now we're going to get rid of all the vaccines because we've determined that this is what's causing autism. Yeah, that's not true. They've already debunked that multiple times.
That's not true. That's right. We know that's not true. So we'll see what happens over the next several months. But this is a clear example again of Trump putting someone in place who, and I think this goes back to, like, I get the drain the swamp mentality. We have talked about this several times before, that Republicans voted Trump in because they knew he'd be a bull in a china shop, and they wanted to fucking break shit. Like, they wanted to break shit. But here's the deal. Like, it's one thing to break up the stuff that's not working. But if you want to talk about DEI and people who actually deserve the jobs that they're being given, I just, where are you right now? Because this guy saying this shit is such a clear example of someone who's so fucking wrong for the job that he has.
Yeah.
I just can't believe it. And so if we continue to allow these people to run this country, they are obviously just doing such a shit job. We look like such idiots. Like
and what's his next move going to be? Like, I've determined that everyone with autism can't support themselves, and we're not here to support them either. So we're going to get rid of their Medicaid funding.
Right. That's exactly, like, you're exactly right. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Okay. I want to move on. Okay. So I just want to give a quick update from our last episode. Part of the episode was about how Trump tried to get Harvard to basically dismantle its DEI practices.
Yeah.
And Harvard told him to get stuffed. Like, they were like, go fuck yourself. You're hilarious.
Yeah.
They are now suing Trump. They have said in a lawsuit that the government has not and cannot identify any rational connection between anti-Semitism concerns and the medical, scientific, technological, and other research it has frozen that aims to save American lives, foster American success, preserve American security, and maintain America's position as a global leader in innovation. This was filed in a Boston federal court. If this ends up going to the Supreme Court, how do you think they will vote?
Oh, I think they're going to vote against Trump.
So here's my feeling on it.
I think Roberts will side with the 3 liberal justices. I think that, what's her name? Coney Barrett will side with the 3 liberal justices. I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Justice Thomas and Alito are never going to vote against Trump because they're in his pocket. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think that they'll vote in favor of Harvard.
So I would agree. So the Trump administration is demanding that Harvard gives it access to all university reports on anti-Semitism and anti-Muslim bias on campus because it's trying to figure out, like, is it actually responding to reports? It's going to be interesting because technically, like, I assume the government has widespread authority to give its money wherever it wants. But I also am assuming that there is somewhere that this is actually bestowed by Congress, or it is, something that we have built into what the government can. It's going to be interesting because technically, like, can the president basically decide wherever funds are going to go? Does that go through the Department of Education? So I'll be really interested to see how this lawsuit unfolds, because at the end of the day, like, the fact is, like, they're just saying, hey, you can't freeze our funding, and they're suing them. And it'll be interesting whether a federal judge comes back and says, well, they can do whatever the fuck they want, or if they can say, no, they actually have to prove a reason to revoke funding that it's already granted. Because I'm guessing that's where that's coming from, is that this is funding that's already been granted, and now the Trump administration, is
trying to
Trump regime is trying to pull that funding back. And so this is where I'm assuming, like, this is like breaking a contract. So I'm really interested to see what happens. And so, to your point, if it does become that, like, oh, they have to give sufficient proof that they had the right to break the contract over, like, not being able to do X, Y, and Z, then I 1000% believe that you are right, that the Supreme Court would actually side on that the Trump administration has not provided decent proof that that they are in the right to break a contract. So I'll be interested to see what that is. If there are any lawyers that listen or watch this and they want to chime in, feel free to please jump into the comments, because I'm still, like, confused over what this lawsuit is actually going to look like. With that said, I fucking love the fact that Harvard is, like,
bringing it to them. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Okay. the last thing on my list. I know that we have some updates that we have about also with some of the people that have been deported, including the Maryland father who was able to meet with the Minnesota Senator
Van Hollen.
And he was wearing a Chiefs hat, by the way.
I noticed that. Yeah, that he had a Chiefs hat on. And that they totally had him in like regular clothes. And this was
Sipping
definitely
on margaritas. When before they weren't even going to let him like see the guy. Okay. Yeah. I have not heard any like specifics around that conversation other than just
I have a couple of things.
Okay. Cause like I heard that he basically was like, yes, I was detained. I haven't been given, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I haven't been hearing a lot of specifics around it.
I mean, I don't have a whole lot, but what Senator Van Hollen said is that he can confirm that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was transferred from CCOT to another facility, but they didn't say what facility.
Yeah.
The Trump regime has pledged more than $15 million to El Salvador to detain U.S. migrants, including Kilmar, and over $4 million of that has already been paid out. And there was something about the staged, like him being in those outfits and or, you know, being in his clothes and that kind of thing. But, it's wild to me. And the Judge Boasberg holding them in contempt because they're refusing to follow the Supreme Court's orders to at least bring him back here and then, you know, charge him with something and bring him into court and prove that because I think this is what we had a comment about this on YouTube. And I think this is what people like. I don't know if we weren't clear, if this person is just being willfully obstinate. I don't really know. No one's saying he's not a terrorist. We don't know if he's actually a terrorist.
Oh, 100%.
Because they have not charged him with anything. All they've done is said originally that he was part of the Venezuelan gang. Then when it came out he wasn't part of the Venezuelan gang, well, now he's a part of MS-13. There's still no proof of MS-13. And now we're saying all the things like Pam Bondi's up here giving, you know, press speeches about how, you know, he's a human trafficker, and Trump saying he beat his wife and he did, like, they're saying all of the buzzwords that get the MAGA far right hard. Yeah. It's like this weird porn fetish over immigration. And there's been, and 90% of everyone that they have sent to El Salvador does not have any kind of criminal record in the United States. It doesn't mean that they're here illegally. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't be deported because they're, you know, here illegally or whatever. But 90% of them do not have a criminal record.
Yep.
And they were whisked out of this country to El Salvador with no charges being pressed against 100%.
Them. And that is what is so frustrating.
Yeah.
For us is that, is it okay for us to be deporting people to another country's concentration camp?
Exactly.
Before giving a person due process.
That's right.
Could he be bad? 100%.
Yeah.
Even though they call him a wife beater and his wife has come out and said, listen, did I have a restraining order for a short period of time? Yes, because at that time I had just come out of a different relationship. Like, she had reasons, but does she stand by her man and say he's not a wife beater, whatever? Okay. But can we just remember that if wife beaters were outlawed in this fucking country, the entire Republican Party should get shipped off to the worst concentration camps there are. With that said, that is, if she doesn't press charges, that is not he has never been convicted of a crime.
And I'd like to remind everyone that the person sitting in the White House has been
convicted of crimes. That's
charges were brought.
That's right. He hasn't just been accused of crimes.
That's right.
He's been convicted, and this guy hasn't even been accused.
Hasn't even been charged with anything.
Again, as we said last week, the Trump administration has said, I will ship off anyone I want to. So love that so much.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about, so I listened to Tangle podcast. I love Tangle podcast. A friend of mine turned me on to it, where they give two sides of a situation. Was it Tangle? No, it was Pod Save America. I listen to all sorts of podcasts. Doesn't matter. So I was listening to Pod Save America. And they had this Canadian actress that was on who she had filed all of her paperwork correctly. She went through a very expensive Canadian lawyer. She thought she had done everything she was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. There was a clerical error on her paperwork that she didn't make. Like the embassy, the U.S. embassy made a clerical error on her paperwork. Shit. But it basically meant that she had to, her application for a visa was rejected and she had to reapply. She had already reapplied and believed that she was allowed to come into the country, even, while her application was getting worked on, because I think she even said like someone at the U.S. embassy told her that. She comes into the country. As she's flying in, they detain her. And they're like, your visa is revoked. Whatever. We're arresting you. And she's like, she's like, I started to look for flights home because I was like, okay, my visa's still effed up. Let me try and find flights home. And the guy's like, no, you're getting arrested and I'm sending you to jail. She's like, but I'll pay for a flight home. Just let me go home. Yeah. And they're like, absolutely not. So she gets transferred to a jail in, I think she was in San Diego, either San Diego or Los Angeles, but Southern California. She gets transferred to that. She sits in a jail cell with 20 other women and has to use, by the way, the jail bathroom with those 20 other women for 2 days until they finally put her in shackles and chains and ship her to a
detention facility
prison. And she says it's exactly like you see on television, where we have a jail cell. I had a roommate. And all of us in this one area were all ICE detainees. So she's like, the only way I got through it was listening. And she goes, she was in for 2 weeks and she kept telling people, I'll pay for my own flight home. I will send myself home. Just let me leave and I will send myself home. So she stays there for a while. She's there for, I think she said a week. She then gets transported to another women's prison. Shackles, the whole thing. You sit on a bus for 8 hours in shackles while they transport you to another prison. By the way, you're not stopping to go to the bathroom. And she gets to this other prison where she has to be reprocessed in, which is like medical evaluations, health evaluations,
cavity checks,
total and complete search everywhere. Like listening to her story was absolutely fucking insane. And this is a Canadian woman who was told one thing, like it was literally a clerical error that caused her, and she was in prison for 2 weeks. And the only reason that she believes, because there are other people in there for like months, the only reason she believes that she was able to get out is because her lawyer contacted like a news organization and started like, I'm going to put it everywhere I can. And so like, she's going on every podcast she can to tell what she goes, it was so awful and demoralizing. And she goes, and it's not like I got a sorry. And she's I lost 2 weeks of work. If you don't have the money, like you're fucked. Yeah. And she's like, and it's not like, I mean, I did finally, my lawyer was able to convince them, listen, we're about to go on these different news channels. And if you don't let her pay for her way home, which we're happy to do, we're going to blow this story up. And they're like, oh, and they told her, well, we didn't know that you were willing to pay for your ticket home. And she's like,
which is a blatant lie.
Every 5 minutes. Like I keep telling everyone,
which is a blatant fucking lie.
That's exactly right. And so this is what I'm saying is it can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. And if she had been sent to El Salvador, what would have happened?
Yeah.
Like what would have happened? Clearly Trump is of the opinion, like we're not doing anything. And same with his regime. We're not doing anything. At this point, you're in El Salvador. So you're leaving up to the El Salvadorian, their own regime to try and figure it out, assuming that they're not going to do anything either. Like what the actual fuck? And this is what I'm saying is it could happen to fucking anyone.
To anyone. And this is why due process is in the Constitution.
So important.
It's so important. Yes. Because they can decide at any moment that you're a terrorist.
Yep.
That you are,
correct.
That you're anything. That you're anything, and that you don't get an opportunity.
That you're a communist, that you're a traitor, that you're betraying the country. Like, they can accuse you of anything. And without due process,
you can't defend yourself.
And a trial by your peers, there is no ability for us to refute that, which is absolutely fucking terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
Okay, speaking of the war against the regime, you know that AOC and Bernie have been on their anti-oligarchy
burning it up, baby.
Burning it up. I love it. Did you see they were at Coachella? Bernie Sanders?
Yes, I saw him on the stage at Coachella. Yes.
I mean, how fucking awesome. This is someone who is not leaning into his octogenarian lifestyle.
Not at all. Not at all. Definitely not getting more conservative as he gets older. Not at all.
That's right. With that said, James Carville.
Oh, God.
So basically, you know that David Hogue, which is now the vice chair of the DNC, is raising $20 million to boost primary challengers running in safe Democratic seats against incumbent Democrats. Because in those cases, they're the Chuck Schumers and the Nancy Pelosi's that have not been willing to progress, progressive Democratic ideals. They're the ones that are just sitting there and doing absolutely nothing. James Carville is absolutely livid about it. He is like basically saying it's the most insane thing he has ever heard, is the idea of spending $20 million running against other Democrats. He goes, what's his plan to deal with our 27% approval rating? That's my question to him. The fact of the matter is right now our party is in a crisis. We're seeing people lose faith in our party. They're losing faith in democracy across the country. And we need to make sure that we're getting people to vote for Democrats, not simply because we're not Donald Trump, but because we have a better message and a better opinion for them. And so they're like, okay, what is that better message? And he's like, we need to be able to like bring everybody into the fold. And I'm like, okay, what are you saying? Like what? Yes. He called David Hogue a twerp. He says that Bernie Sanders and AOC need to split from the Democratic Party and make their own party. This was on Chris Cuomo's show. Host Chris Cuomo says Sanders and AOC are pulling a card from MAGA Republicans playbook, making the masses angry and then going after your own. And he says, maybe I said they need to split off from the Democratic Party and call themselves a socialist. I don't know, urbanist central city. Let me make a point about Bernie and AOC. Bernie went for president twice and he lost twice. AOC in her time and this guy, David Hogue, they want to run against other Democrats. They don't run against Republicans. Well, when you beat a Republican, come back and see me and then I'll be impressed. But if you're spending all your time, and I think that's the real problem, I mean, it's fine they draw big crowds, but all they want to do, this Hogue wants to do, is they want to beat like Democrats, and Democrats are not the Republicans right now. I'm like, okay, this to me is, I get it. Like, James Carville believes in the Democratic Party.
Yes,
and he was part of the Clinton administration, who was as right of the Democratic Party as you can fucking get, right? It was Bill Clinton that gave us like deregulation of banks and gave like the 2008 financial crisis all the gas that it needed to be able to move forward the way that it did. Like, and at the end of the day, I was a huge Hillary supporter. I believe that Hillary Clinton, was like the first voice of universal health care when she got booed out of Congress when she was first lady. So I still stand by Hillary Clinton. But with that said, Bill Clinton was not my favorite president. He also ushered in the don't ask, don't tell mentality, which period point blank to me totally undermined what we were trying to do from a gay rights perspective. So again, I get James Carville was part of right-leaning left politics for decades. And he believes that's what we need to oust the Republicans. I disagree.
Oh, 1,000%.
And I think most left-leaning Democrats, in fact, I think that most Democrats disagree. Right now, Bernie Sanders put out a poll that right now in the Democratic Party, actually, I'm sorry. I'll have to pull the poll and I'll try and pop it on the screen if I remember correctly. But it basically gave Barack Obama a 27% approval rating amongst all voters.
Mm-hmm.
But it gave Bernie Sanders the next highest approval rating at a 12%.
Wow.
Above Donald Trump, who right now is at like negative 4% or something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I get the idea that it pisses you off that David Hogue is trying to put in dollars in districts where Democrats have traditionally been able to keep
safe.
their seats.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, if their vote isn't helping us and they're not progressing policies that are for the left, like, and I've said this before, I don't understand what Democrats are out there saying they don't believe in universal health care or don't believe in gun controls. No Democrat. I own a gun. You own guns.
Yeah.
We all I don't know a Democrat that doesn't own a gun, but also believes that everybody that buys a gun should have a fucking background check and that we shouldn't give guns to felons. Like, I don't know a single Democrat that doesn't believe that. Like, I know NRA touting Democrats that still believe in gun reform. So this is my thing is like, I get that James Carville, but listen, dude, you are 80 something years old or getting very close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that AOC and Bernie are giving a message that resonates with left-leaning voters.
Yes.
And actually is drawing crowds and approval from the left for the first time since Obama. And can I say that even Obama, who I supported wholeheartedly for 2 terms, didn't do enough for left-leaning progressive politics.
Right.
For my taste. And so these two, if they're actually going to get up and make some noise and bring people to the left, let's do it.
And I don't agree with his statement of we need to be running on something other than we're not Trump. No, we don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that fucking basic of here is everything this guy has done to ruin this fucking country, and we're not going to do that. So you stand to gain something by at least voting Democratic next time around. You know what I mean?
Yep. So he said, maybe I said that they need to split off from the Democratic Party and call themselves a socialist, Urbis Central City Party. I don't think most Democrats are that. And maybe we need to have a schism. Maybe we can form a government coalition. This happens every time in parliamentary things where you come in and say, okay, you want to be part of our coalition. That's what MAGA did. Just so you know, James Carville, that's exactly what the Tea Party did, was they created a schism so loud and so strong that they were able to take over the Republican Party. Yep. And I don't care if you're scared or not. That's exactly how I feel for the Democrats at this point. Like, we're at that point.
If you're scared of it and you're going to stand in the way of it, let me know when you're available to meet JD Vance.
Yeah.
Because he can assassin you. You can go the way of the Pope.
Because at one point, JD Vance was very much against Trump and then decided that
that too. But no, I'm just saying because
you're right.
Of our JD Vance could
just kill him and make it look like a heart failure and a stroke.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So at this point, like, we're seeing some infighting amongst the left. Yeah. We've got the right regime completely pissed off at Pete Hegseth. So some infighting over there. So yes, the country is in turmoil. It is time for us to really start banding together as the left. And if you're one of these Democrats that is like, yes, I don't believe in these left-leaning politics or these, progressive political ideals, please let us know because I want to meet you. Yes. I want to have a conversation with you. Yes. I want to know what the fuck you are actually thinking. So please, let me know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, I've gone on my little tirade about James Carville and his disdain of AOC, Bernie Sanders, and David Hogue. I don't have anything else on my list. Anything else on your list, my friend?
Not anything that we necessarily need to touch on. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope.
In that case,
are you ready for
time for our Happy ending.
Yes. And I picked this story specifically for you and Miss Betty White.
Oh, okay.
So this story is coming to us again from the United States. That's 2 weeks in a row. I'd just like to point that out.
Shocking.
Coming to us from Arizona.
Okay.
A 2-year-old boy who spent a night alone in the Arizona wilderness was led to safety by a rancher's dog and recovered safely at home with his family last Thursday. The toddler disappeared from his home at around 5 p.m. local time on Monday. His home's about 100 miles south of the Grand Canyon National Park.
I was just there.
I know. That's the other reason I picked it for you. And I'm getting to the first reason. But yes, prompted a large search operation. He was wearing just a blue tank top and a pair of pajama pants. He wandered off from his home. He ended up several miles away and in territory where mountain lions live and roam. Search parties continued their efforts throughout the night and spotted 2 mountain lions along the way. After 16 hours of searching, he was rescued. Scotty Dunton, a rancher whose property is 7 miles away from Alan's, the little boy's home, said that his dog Buford had discovered the wandering boy. The canine had been doing his job patrolling the ranch and appeared to have protected and shepherded the missing boy to safety after discovering him. The dog is a Great Pyrenees.
Oh,
just like Miss Betty White.
I love that.
And he spends all night patrolling the ranch.
Okay.
So that's how he found the little boy.
So what time did this boy go missing?
5 p.m.
And so he was out 16
all night,
hours?
16 hours. And then this rancher is driving down his driveway and the dog's just like at the end of the driveway. And then he sees this toddler standing with his dog.
Okay. Do you remember my story about being out? So my son is like super into space right now.
Yes.
So the Grand Canyon is considered a dark park, which means like they take great precautions to keep lights super low. And so we decided, just him and I, that we were going to go out to the Grand Canyon because you can get in after dark and you can stargaze. We go out and it's like the most beautiful sky I've ever seen.
Just because it's like pitch black.
The number of stars in the sky was, if you don't believe in God, it's the closest thing you'll ever get to God looking at this fucking sky. It's just the most amazing fucking thing you've ever seen. I just cannot sell this enough to people.
Interesting.
That if they get the chance to do it. But the thing is, I only lasted for about a half an hour out there.
Because it was cold, right?
No, because it is so dark. I'm like, anything could sneak up on me. A bear, a mountain lion, a human. Like my hand in front of my face, I could not see.
Well,
I couldn't see AJ. I couldn't see our car.
That's wild.
It was
black
terrifying.
Black. Yeah.
How did this kid survive? Like, that's insane.
He told the police that he slept under a tree.
Oh,
so
my God.
So they think the dog must have kept him warm.
Oh, my God. That is terrifying.
And just stayed with him.
I know that. So with the weekend that we were out there, the days got up into the 70s, but the night times were in like the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. And he's in a tank top and a pair of pajama pants.
Yes. That's insanity. And the week before it had snowed like a lot.
Oh God. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Oh,
and he was
I love
7.
That.
Yeah. He was 7 miles from his home.
That's
insanity. At the rancher's house. Yeah.
That
like the dog led him back to his house.
Yes.
Where he knew there was going to be a human.
So Mark and I joke because Betty White is half Great Pyrenees and half Lab, but she's like, her attitude, to your point, is 1000% Great Pyrenees.
Yeah.
To the point where, so they say that Great Pyrenees, they have their flock and they have their master. Their master, they follow what they say, but their flock is like who they protect, who they're around all the time, whatever. And so we joke that I am Betty's flock. Mark is her master, but I am her flock. And so today, this was so funny because, and this might be getting into too much information, so I might cut this, but we'll see. I had just gotten out of the shower. Mark gets home from work today, and I'm like just laying in bed, like doom scrolling, right? Mark comes up, and he smacks me on the ass, and Betty goes, "Arr," and then was like, "Oh, it's Mark." Like she was just so like protective. And now she jumped because I jumped because I was like, "Hey, don't do that." Like I yelled at Mark about it. And so she jumped because I jumped, but like it is like, if of all the dogs I've ever had, she would rip someone apart. I really believe that. Like she is a protector. So like, I mean, oh, I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That is a very heartwarming story. And I can't call it our hand job story now because it involved a child, and that just gets weird. So okay, next time we'll talk about the hand job story.
I'll get one next time that's more appropriate.
Okay, this week it'll just be a happy ending story. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you for ending on such a nice high note. I love that.
For sure.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for joining us today. I hope this has been at least somewhat entertaining. Also, if you guys have any theories on JD Vance and his alternate lifestyle as an assassin, we would love to hear from you. Also, appreciate the comments. That helps us to do a better job in responding to the things that bothering you, especially if you happen to be a Trumper and, if you're not trolling and you actually legitimately have an argument, we want to hear it so that we can address it if we can. With that said, we love you all and we hope you're all having the day that you voted for.
That's right.
Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.
Good night.
Good night.